Identifying.
The king of cakes. Chopper for the win.
G'day guys, welcome back to CakesByChoppA. Today we have the Vidcon logo cake for you, as you've seen in the thumbnail, with a special technique on how to get a rainbow filling. But before we get into that, I wanted to let you know that I'm heading to Vidcon in Melbourne. I'm a featured creator and I'll be doing a couple of panels, and I'm also doing one for the industry track, but I'll be there hanging out. So if you come to Vidcon, download the app, links are all in the description for everything. Find out where I am, come say hi. Also check out the merchandise. I've got a little poster available, which I can't wait to show you guys. I'm just super pumped. I can't wait. It's all I've been thinking about, repping the Vidcon merch. I just had such a good time in America, which I just want to go back, and this will be my third Vidcon in 14 months. So yeah, just loving it. And shout out to the Vidcon team. They have been amazing. I'm super pumped. These guys work super hard. You have no idea. So yeah, props to you guys. And let's get on with the cake.
Alright, to kick off this majestic rainbow-filled Vidcon cake, you're going to head over to the CakesByChoppA Facebook page, print off the Vidcon template, which is in the template album. Then you're going to get 6 sheets of baking paper that cover the entire surface, and then trace out the shape of the logo. And then you're going to mix up your 6 colors. I used red, yellow, orange, green, blue, and purple. Once you've got your buttercreams all mixed up, you're going to place a couple of spoonfuls in the center of the logo and then work it out with a spatula. You want to get at about half a pencil thickness because you've got 6 layers, so you don't need it too thick, but you can't have it too thin. It's got to be just, as I said, about half the thickness of a pencil, and it will look great. Once you've got all 6 of those, you're going to pop them in the freezer and let them firm up, because this is going to be easier for you to stack it. You could try and stack them one by one, but I think it would just end up in a big slop. So it is best to freeze them or refrigerate them for a while. Try and keep them as smooth as possible. And as you can see here, I've got them chilled and they're quite firm, so I could peel the back off and then place it on top. Be sure to pay attention to the shape of the actual template, because you don't want to turn it upside down and end up trimming off the wrong side and not having enough buttercream to fill your cake. I should also mention, when you're spreading the buttercream out, go a little bit over the size of the template underneath, because when you come to trimming the edges off, you don't want to not have enough on the edge. You want to, I'd say about 1 centimeter over is fine. Stack them all together and then pop them in the freezer to chill for another 5 minutes. When that's done, you can pull it out, get your hot knife and trace around the edges. Well, actually, I shouldn't say trace, I should say cut away the edges as close to the template as possible, because this is going to sit in the middle of your cake and become the filling. It looks quite effective. It's really simple to do. It just takes a little bit of prep time. And I should mention that you shouldn't rush this process, but you also don't want to take too long. If you think the buttercream's starting to soften too much, just pop it back into the freezer and refresh your hot water in the glass, because the hotter your knife, I wouldn't heat it up, I'd just use hot water, but the hotter your knife, the easier it glides through that cold buttercream. Once you've trimmed it off and it's all nice and neat and the same size as the template, you can pop it back into the freezer and then cut out your cakes just using the same template. That's why I've provided 2. And you want to cut out 2 levels of that, because you're going to stack the cake. Once you're happy with them, I put them on top and trimmed it down so I knew they were the exact same size on each side. And I leveled it off just a little bit because I didn't want that round mound at the top. I wanted a nice flat logo. Using a bit of buttercream, stick it to your cake board, place on your first layer, and then you're going to get out your rainbow filled buttercream. And it's as easy as peeling off the back sheet, placing it the right way on the template. And even though I'd done this by the actual template, there was still a little bit of overhang. So I placed it on nicely and then got the hot knife and trimmed off so it was flush with the cake on all sides. If whilst you're trimming this it cracks off a little bit, you can just place it back in and just use your finger to melt it a little bit. This is not going to affect the cake too much because you are going to cover this with a white buttercream. Once I got the top layer on, I went around and I filled in the gaps along the side where the buttercream is. It's important to do this first so you're getting rid of any excess air bubbles at the sides, and it also helps not to smudge the rainbow through the outer layer of your cake, so you get this nice white line around the edge. Once you're happy with that coating on the edge, you can place small buttercream on top, work it down and give it a full crumb coat. You don't have to be too neat with this, because as always, I put on a lot more buttercream than I should, and then it's easier to remove it to get the desired look. Once you've chilled that for a couple of minutes, you can use a paper towel to go over and smooth out any little bumps or imperfections. Again, this is going to be covered with fondant, so you don't have to be too picky. Just get a nice smooth surface as much as you can. Then you're going to roll out some white fondant. I used a kilo of fondant here, and there was heaps of excess, so I just like to use a bit more so I get a nice cover, and it's a safe way to not run out when you're rolling it over the top. You can always just ball this back up, put it in some cling wrap and put it in an airtight container and reuse it, as long as you don't get chocolate on it or colouring. As you can see here, I'm going around the edges, pushing them in and smoothing it down. You never want to pull too much. You want to let the weight of the fondant do the work and get it attached to those sides as quick as possible. Then trim off your excess. I've got these little clay tools here that I use in 90% of my videos. They're amazing to work with fondant. You can get right in there and get a nice clean cut. So once I've trimmed off all the excess, I went through and cleaned it up a little bit more. I was going to leave it just with the nice rounded edge at the bottom, but then I decided to put the blue border on, because when I photograph the cake, it gives that little extra blue piece that's on the Vidcon logo. So what I did here was roll out the blue fondant into a long snake, and using my fondant smoother to get it nice and thin so there's no fingerprints. Got a wet brush, went and lined the bottom of it to adhere the little border, placed it around, and then you sort of overlap it at the back and use a cutting tool to cut off a nice flush piece, and then move it in and cut the next piece flush with it. And you can use your brush to smooth that out, so it's a bit harder to see that join. Now taking some red fondant, I've rolled it out fairly thick. This is about, I'd say, just under the thickness of a pencil. I love my descriptions, like it's all based off pencils. So once you've got it to that thickness, cut out the logo, and then I drew a little triangle on this second logo because it was cleaner. The other one had a little bit of cake on it. If you want to just print another template, feel free, and you just cut out that little triangle out of the middle of the red, and I let this air dry for about half an hour so it was a little bit firmer. Placed it on right in the dead center because I wanted a little bit of a border around the edge of the red, and then I used my cake steamer to give that fondant a nice glossy look, which dries up and it looks a lot cleaner. You're going to get rid of all those dusty marks and stuff, and don't let any glitter fall on it from your brush or you'll have to do a cleanup job like I did. And there you go, you have your Vidcon cake that is ready to wow your friends, because if you do this right, no one will know there's a rainbow inside, and once they cut the cake, they'll get a huge surprise. Now, in honor of this Vidcon themed cake, I have put together a little slideshow of photos from the previous 3 VidCons of all the amazing people I met. The first person to name them all, I'll send a free poster to, and I'll get some of the crew in Melbourne to sign it. Have fun, guys. I'll see you soon.